Hey, what's up? How are you?
Hey, pretty good, man. How about yourself?
I'm good. Nice to meet you, man. For the longest time, I've been calling you Cool V1C, and I just realized it's Cool Vic, so that makes sense.
Yeah, man, no worries. It happens to me quite often. Like, well, people will call me Cool V1C, and I'm like, ugh, I shouldn't have put that stupid one in there. Yeah, but
Well,
no, man, no worries, man. How you doing, man? So, what did you think of the review, the debate?
yeah, no, I thought it was a fair assessment. I did see a lot of confusion in chat. If you don't mind me asking, what was kind of your biggest takeaway in both regards?
Let's see. So my takeaways were, well, for once, for starters, this is the most civilized I've seen Craig because Craig usually goes off. And I think that was a testament to you because you were pretty calm and cool and collected the whole time, you know. So I think that helped keep everything balanced. Like, it because if you would have matched the energy, then it would have just evolved into the whole, you know what I mean? The typical Craig stuff.
Yeah, before you
And
move on, because I have a question about this. Because you are a debate connoisseur, you love watching debates, right?
mhm.
Do you think because I'm trying to up the entertainment value on my debates as well. I want more people to see them, and sometimes people a criticism I get is it's a little boring when I debate.
Mhm.
But then I hear what you just said of being calm is a good thing as well. But what do you think? I feel like, for example, when you see Jim Bob or Andrew debate Craig, he they get very animated as well, and it is entertaining. So I'm
Yeah,
kind
it
of
is.
stuck between the two of I don't really know what to do. What do you think? You think I should, yell a little bit more?
I think you should do whatever makes you feel comfortable
Yeah.
because like we can't all be Andrew, we can't all be Jim Bob, so if that's just your style, I think it could work. Because personally, I think I've seen like 3 of your debates, and I don't find them boring because I
Okay.
think the substance, what you guys were talking about, was what kept me interested.
Gotcha.
So I mean, it's really up to you, whatever you feel like, whatever works and that is natural for you. If you try to be Andrew, if you try to be Jim Bob, it might not work. But if that's
Right.
what's best for you, then I think, keep going,
Cool.
you
Thanks.
know, because like I said, some like as entertaining as those debates are, sometimes I do want to hear the actual arguments, I guess.
Yeah.
So and that's why I liked here. Um, which will lead me to my next takeaway. The only thing I will say, and I think I said this at the end, was that I don't know if maybe you were going to, but you kept getting interrupted. I just wish you would have dived into the whole how come what you were saying wasn't circular, like dived into it a
Mhm.
little bit more, because to anyone like Craig who's not a believer, they're going to just be like, well, that's circular reasoning, and you're
Right.
already presupposing God to justify your beliefs. And so um, I guess that's why it's good to have you here on now. Like, how would you explain that to Craig or people like Craig?
Yeah. So I think it's a fair criticism. And maybe on my part, figuring out how not to, because I was just really thrown off the fact that he was saying things like modus ponens itself is circular. For those who may not know, modus ponens is an inference rule. It's a syllogism that's been proven to be valid under classical logic, and it's simply if P, then Q, Q, therefore P, P, therefore Q. And circular reasoning is actually what's called an informal fallacy. So an informal fallacy has nothing to do with the structure. So if I just gave you the structure of modus ponens, if P then Q, P therefore Q, there's actually no way to know if that's circular because there's no content in the syllogism. So a formal fallacy, um, like not begging the question, that's informal, but I'm having a brain fart. Something the antecedent. I forget the exact name of it. But that would be if P, then Q, Q, therefore P. That doesn't follow. That's a formal fallacy. Um, but the informal fallacy of circular reasoning has to do with the reasoning behind the premises. So Craig had a point, he just wasn't making it clear. And as when you're in a debate, it isn't your job to make your opponent's arguments clear, right?
Mhm.
That's just, you don't do that.
Yeah.
It's their job to make their argument clear.
Mhm.
So when the better way to put it is the conditional statement, if P then Q, in my case, if knowledge is possible, God exists. What's the reasoning behind that? That could be circular. If my reasoning, for example, was what he was claiming it was, that God exists and therefore knowledge is possible. If that was my support for premise one, that would be circular. But that's not my support for premise one. My support for premise one, I'm not looking at it right now. I can't get on the docs and be on here, but it goes something like this. Either God is the necessary precondition for knowledge, or he's not. It is, and that's A or not A. And then the second premise is it is not true that God is not the necessary precondition for knowledge. So that would be not A. And then you use an inference rule called double negation elimination. So this is a disjunctive syllogism overall with a true dichotomy, A or not A. Then the double negation elimination inference rule, which is valid under classical logic, says that from not A, you can derive A. So if I can prove not A, then A is true. So the conclusion would be A, and premise two would be not A. So A or not A, not A, A. And, you know, people can have all the questions they want. They can, I'll answer them. But this is just, under classical logic, this follows. I'm actually having a discussion, because he didn't want to do a debate, with Alex Malpass, who's a PhD in philosophy and an atheist and studies tag a lot. That'll be very interesting. He has some interesting objections. But even he would agree, this is all logically valid. Then the question is, how do you prove not A? Well, not A in this case would be that God doesn't exist. Well, how do we prove that God, how do we prove that not A? So not that God doesn't exist.
Okay.
It would be with this statement, knowledge is possible. You can't say knowledge is impossible. I said that in the Craig debate. If you say knowledge is impossible, then it's like a self-refutation, because do you know that knowledge is impossible, right? And if you don't know, then you're literally saying, I don't know if knowledge is possible, so it is possible that knowledge is possible, right?
Yeah.
So either way, you're stuck. You have to say that knowledge is possible. Well, how do you ground that? Craig, in this debate, tried to ground it in empiricism by saying, well, I know things by looking at them, by testing them, right? And as we saw, he got stuck in this circle where he would have to assume his senses are reliable in order to know his senses are reliable. So there's no way the atheist can actually justify any epistemology. Most of them try to do it with empiricism. Some people choose rationalism, right? Where they make statements about logic, but then what is logic in their worldview, right? It's usually a concept made up by humans. Jim Bob has an argument where he shows that laws of logic are a concept, they're universal, they're mind dependent. Well, if there's no universal mind out there before humans, what were the laws of logic before humans were there? Could the earth have existed and not existed at the same time and in the same way in the same place? No, it couldn't have. So the laws of logic must have been there somewhere. Where were they? Well, they're in the mind of God, right? They're a reflection of the mind of God. And we could go down each one of these, but basically the argument is reason can't justify itself. You have to get outside of yourself and point to somebody who transcends you. And that's really the fuller argument.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense now that you clarify, and I also appreciate that you also clarified Jim Bob's argument, because I gotta be honest here, because I know he's seen some of my debates, and sometimes I feel like, man, I wonder if he thinks I'm an idiot, because sometimes I'm watching Jim Bob's debates and I'm just sitting there like trying to understand what he's saying, and I think I try my best, but I know for a fact there's probably some things I misunderstand, and so when by you saying that actually clarified a lot of things, but. You bring up how Craig, like, he doesn't want to go out, the atheists, they can't go outside themselves for this logic, and I think that's a consistent thing with atheists, even with Craig, like with his morality, well, it all comes from himself,
Right.
but Craig feels is best, and so I never thought of it that way. The whole like how you explained it about like relying on something outside yourself and your senses. um that's just another thing to throw on top of what these atheists and where they go wrong. And I see in my comment section all the time, they get all like pissed off and stuff. What were you seeing in my comment section? Because I haven't seen everything. I've seen a little here and there, and I've seen you in there. What were type of the arguments that people were saying?
Well, look, I think we are all biased at the end of the day, especially when it comes to a debate as serious as this. Because think about it. If you're an atheist and you admit that God is real, there are certain things about your life that have to change. And a lot of those things you may not want to change. And then if you're a Christian or a theist and you admit that there is no God, well, all of this meaning in your life that you think you had all of a sudden changes, right? Your outlook on morality changes. There's so many things that on both sides, if you would admit defeat in a sense, that you have to change. So there's a lot of bias. And I think the easiest thing to do is just to repeat what your person said in the argument or in the debate. So you kind of just get a lot of the same talking points that Craig said in the debate, in the comments. Then there's the idea where like a lot of Christians actually don't like tag. This is what this argument is called, the transcendental argument for God. A lot of Christians don't like it. I know like a lot of Roman Catholics don't like it because they're Thomistic, and Thomas Aquinas was a big guy on natural theology, which is the opposite of tag, like that you can actually know about God through your natural senses alone, and you can have knowledge through your natural senses alone. As an Orthodox inquirer, Orthodoxy does also believe that you can know God through your senses, but that's ultimately not how he's known. But yeah, I just saw a lot of the circular stuff, but like I asked a couple of the people in your comment section, I asked them, is this circular? And I just put modus ponens there. If P, then Q. P, therefore Q. The reason I asked that is because if you say, yes, that's circular, two things are going on. One, you don't understand that circular reasoning is an informal fallacy. And two, you don't understand that modus ponens structure is valid. If you deny the validity of modus ponens, you deny classical logic. If you deny classical logic, everything is true. And just to be really quick, what I mean by that is one of the laws is the law of non-contradiction. So P and not P cannot both be true at the same time and in the same way. Because if they were, let's say God is real and God is not real. Well, if you say that contradictions can exist, both of those can be true at the same time. Well, then that means if I say God is real, that's true. If I say God is not real, that's true. Well, you can do that with everything. Every single belief you have. Is the opposite also true? If yes, then all truth can be derived from a contradiction. It's actually called the principle of explosion. So if you deny classical logic, especially the law of non-contradiction, then anything can be true. So that's why Craig denying modus ponens as a valid form of a syllogism or a valid inference rule is so devastating. Now, one thing I can admit is I don't do a good job because I know these things. I assume everybody knows these things. And I don't do a good job of in the moment showing just how big of a mistake that is. I just kind of laugh instead because I don't really know what to do. So I definitely have to get better doing that.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, because there's a lot of people in your audience, me being one of them that want to learn more about this stuff. And so, yeah, I would say definitely do that. It's one of the things like with debates that I've learned. It's like you're not so much arguing to change the other person's mind. You're arguing to hopefully change the minds of people that are watching. To some people that might be in the center here, that's not hard on either side,
Yeah.
And that's one thing I've learned is that you're mostly doing it for the people watching, not for your opponent to be like, you know what, you were right,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Let's see what else. You brought up a good analogy later on, and I forgot exactly how it went, but it kind of better summed it up for me, where it was well, if eggs don't exist, omelets can't exist, but omelets
Yeah.
exist, therefore eggs exist. Okay. And
Right.
so I felt that was a good way to explain it for simpletons like me that are like, oh yeah, yeah, you know.
And look, I've been
Um,
studying this since I'm 29 now. I've been
mhm.
studying this since I was 21. And only over the last 6 months have I gotten like a really good grasp on it. So like it takes a while. It's not easy stuff to just get onto. I've just been doing it for a long time, and that's why like, over time you kind of memorize this stuff.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask that. What made you go into this? Like, what made you want to start studying this stuff?
I was 18 when I became a Christian. I grew up in like a non-denominational Christian household, and my stepmom's dad, my grandfather, was a pastor for 40 years. But once I figured out I could, um, chase girls and play video games and
Yeah.
partake in green stuff. I don't know what is allowed on the stream. um, that's all I did. That's all I cared about. So from like 14 to 18, you could ask me if God existed. I'd be like, yeah, maybe. Don't really care. I'll worry about that later on in life.
Mhm.
Then when I was 18, I had a bad psychedelic experience that led me to ultimately becoming a Christian. Make a long story short, for about 2 years, sorry, my manager was over here. For about 2 years, I learned a lot, but I was never challenged on my faith. And then people started challenging me, and I didn't have answers. And so I looked to YouTube to see, like, well, maybe there are people who are Christian who have answers. And I found a lot of different people. And then the way that I argue is called like tag or presuppositional apologetics. James White, Saiton Bruggencate, Jeff Durbin, which ultimately led back to Greg Bonson, Cornelius Van Til. And all of these people were really good at giving me the basics, but it wasn't until I discovered like Jay Dyer and
Mhm.
Father Deacon Ananias, who have gone so much further than the other people that I mentioned, which is ultimately what led me to orthodoxy, because they really broke down these arguments in a way that were the most consistent and had the most depth to them. Like I still had so many questions. I was a Calvinist before, and pretty much all those people I mentioned before were Calvinist.
Mhm.
For those who don't know, Calvinism is based off of John Calvin, who was a Protestant reformer, and he basically believed that everything was pretty much determined, and the elect were chosen by God before the foundation of the world. And there's a lot that comes with that we probably can't get into right now. But uh, once I was shown the absurdities of Calvinism, as well as the consistency of orthodoxy, especially with presuppositional apologetics, that's what made me want to start inquiring more.
All right. Well, that's awesome, man. That's a great story. Yeah, because I remember the debate you brought up too, how you fell into like a bad crowd, and then so that's really fascinating. And it's also fascinating to know that it's taking that you've been, um, reading like you've been into this stuff for so long, and you're still like, you still have it. You're still like learning and stuff. Like it still took you a while to fully grasp a lot of it. Because, like I said, sometimes I watch these and I feel like, man, I feel like this is way out of my depth. Like I'm trying my best here, And so, that's also good to know. It's good to know that I'm not too stupid to learn this. I just, I just gotta like do more research and read more. So I guess that leads me to the next one. So if anyone that wants to get into this stuff, where should they start?
Oh man, so it depends. Like right now, as an Orthodox inquirer, you're very limited in what you can do, because basically the church wants you to, one, know what you're talking about, and two, have a blessing from your local priest in order to do these things. You may have heard Andrew talk about these things or Jay talk about these things. And so like as an inquirer, technically, like I don't have a priest. I'm not like under somebody yet until I become a
Yeah.
catechumen, but I still want to honor that. So you'll see me take a lot less debates on, is Christianity true? Because to give the positive account for Christianity kind of requires that blessing from a priest. And so I've tried my best to back away from that, which is why you'll see me do these arguments of, does God exist in general, right? Uh, and I'm heading towards like different avenues. But so like if you want, I would, if you are Orthodox, I would, be careful and talk to your priest about these things. Get baptized first, get catechized first. But if you want to start learning the arguments, honestly, the easiest way, Jay Dyer has a lot of basic videos, like I think it's called Transcendental Arguments for Slow Boys, and very
Nice.
basic videos like that. And I would watch, and this goes for any kind of debating. Try to find basic teaching videos. If you want to go like hardcore, there's a philosophical paper called The Reason for Reason. It's by Father Deacon Ananias, and it's on, I think it's patristicfaith.com, or if you just search FDA patristic faith, it'll come up. But the best thing to do is find a debate, listen to the opening statement from each side. For the side you agree with, try to figure out why he said all those things, right? So listen to the opening statement, pause it, write down, why did he say these things? How do these arguments connect? Then listen to the opponent's opening statement. Okay, if I was debating this person, how would I respond, right? How would I do a rebuttal to these claims? And then if there's rebuttals, listen to the rebuttals and do the same thing. During the cross-examination, when the person you agree with poses a question, pause it, ask yourself, why did he make this question? Write it down, and then try to figure out, okay, is that why, or was I wrong? When the opponent that you disagree with asks the question, pause it and say, how would I answer this? And then see how your guy answered it. Another good way, especially like if you're really trying to make a name for yourself and all these things, is go on TikTok panels, go on X Spaces, go on YouTube panels like The Raging Tomato. She opens up after every stream. You can go on there. Like, you just got to sign up and get in there. And, maybe try to be anonymous at first, because you're going to make a lot of mistakes, right? Everybody does when they're first starting out. So, there's nothing wrong with being anonymous and making those mistakes. And then once you feel confident enough, start your brand, whether it's your real name or not. I mean, I usually use my real name, but I've been backing off of that as I've been getting a little bit more attention. I have a family, I have a job.
Yeah.
Like, unfortunately, there are some bad actors out there. So I didn't really have to deal with that when nobody knew my name. Now my name's getting out there a little bit and things get a little weird,
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, I haven't had I've had formal debates like with the moderator, but I have had gone on other people's channels and had like, debated things with them. I've gone on like Pisco's channel and I've debated First Amender and
Oh wow.
yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
They're on my channel. So yeah, and like you said, I wasn't like you said, you're gonna make a lot of mistakes and everything. It's like in real life, have you ever had an argument with someone and then later on you're like, oh, I should have said that? It's pretty much the same thing with debates and stuff.
Right.
So but that's good advice though, because I've had people ask me like, hey, how do you get out to like practice debates and stuff? And I've tried to throw like some suggestions out there, but I think what you suggested would be perfect. Go on TikToks, find open panels.
TikTok, all of them.
Yeah, TikTok. Yeah. So I think that's a good piece of advice. See, I'm trying to think of, you got any other debates coming up or anything?
So there's an interesting thing going on where there's a Christian who disagrees with the way I argue tag. He doesn't like tag at all. He wanted to have a debate with me on if tag was a good argument. And to be honest, I mean, I'm just not interested in doing that. And I don't really like debating other Christians. So I was like, we could have a discussion about it, I guess, on my channel. I'll be doing that. His name's David Palming. Other people may have known about him. And then there's an atheist who did the same thing. His name's Alex Malpass. He's very big in like the tag Discord. Like he's probably one of the most well-known atheists who fights against this position. He actually did a debate about 6 years ago with Jay. And he has like the same kind of thing. He just wanted to debate, like, is tag a good argument? And I'm like, I don't like, it's kind of a weird thing to debate. Like, why not just debate me on one of the prompts I usually debate? He didn't want to do that. So we're going to have, a discussion on the subject. Those are late September and early October. Those will be on my channels. I'm always looking for more debates. Remember Jed, who debated Jim Bob
Oh
recently,
yeah.
and then me? Yeah.
Hmm.
I'm trying to figure out if I can get a little 2-on-2, maybe with Jim Bob, maybe with somebody else and Jed. So always working in the background trying to get something going on.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I saw that you debated Jed. I haven't watched it yet, but I think I'll check that out and review that for the channel.
Yeah, it
Um,
was similar to the Craig debate. I had made a little clip, and I think I got him to concede the debate within the first 60 seconds of cross examination. But
oh
I'll let you
shit.
check it out and see what happened.
Hell yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to it now. Thanks for coming on Wi-Fi. So where can people find you at?
Yeah, so it's just at Wi-Fi Gospel on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and X.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, brother.
And
I'm
and
gonna
then if you ever want to do like an open panel style debate where like we debate other people, or if you ever want to review anything, like I'm always down to collab. I love doing stuff with other YouTubers, and I love your channel. I started watching, probably been subbed for at least 3 months, and I think it was when I ran across like an Andrew Wilson debate that you reviewed,
mhm.
and I've been watching since. So it was cool, really cool to see my video up there. Thank you for doing that.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, man. No problem. No problem. Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, maybe we could have you back on. What I want to start doing sometimes, because I'm starting to get to know certain people. Like I've been, I know you now. Like I'm kind of in touch with Emmett. You know Emmett,
I don't
or
know if I know Emmett.
yeah, I don't know his last name, but I just know his name's Emmett. But
Okay.
I've got in touch with him. I'm in touch with Marte Reyes. You know Marte?
Yeah, I know Marte.
Yeah, yeah. So I've gotten I'm kind of getting in contact with more people, and I want to start doing like where it's like I have the people on while reviewing the debates to see if
Nice.
give your thoughts and stuff. So, maybe sometime in the future we could do that. We could have you back on, and you could review your own debate with me. I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Hit me up anytime and we'll make it work.
Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah. Well,
Cool.
thanks for coming on Wi-Fi. It was great having you on, and hope you have a great and blessed rest of your day, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Vic. God bless.
Yeah, God bless, man. See you later.
See ya.